If you're thinking about buying a remote control electric trolley, then you've probably already realised that they get pretty expensive pretty quickly. So that's why the Navee Birdie 3 is a real tempting brand new trolley, because at £800 it is feature packed. I mean, of course, you've got the remote control, and then it comes with a 36-hole battery, you've got app connectivity, you've got power assist so you can walk it around. On paper, that sounds really quite tempting. But the question is, are you saving money, or are you going to be accepting compromises, maybe getting a little bit frustrated every round, meaning maybe you should have spent that little bit more? Well, maybe a lot more in some cases. So in this review, I'm going to tell you what the Navee Birdie 3 gets right, a few of the things that it doesn't, and who I think this trolley is for. So before we get into the quirks of the trolley, it's probably worth mentioning what caught my eye about this one, because £800 is a really good price point for a remote electric trolley. And it doesn't mean that it feels particularly budget either. It's feature packed, it feels, for the most part, like pretty good quality. I think it's going to be on a lot of people's radars. Now, if you haven't heard of Navee before, well, I don't blame you, because I hadn't either, and this is their entry into the golf market. But they are massive in the e-scooter market. So they've got pedigree when it comes to battery-powered mobility. And now they're transferring it out onto the golf course. Now, I think it's fair to say that most electric trolleys look pretty similar and have a pretty standard similar set of features. There's just kind of minor differences between them. The Navee does quite a few things differently. Doesn't really look like anything else. Certainly the way that you use the handles in the push mode. Some might like that, some might not. But Navee is certainly here to disrupt. And one of the joys of a remote trolley is that I've just played my shot and the trolley's over there. And I can send it on its way to the next tee, and I'll go meet it over there. You've got to be comfortable with steering it from these kind of angles though, so you don't run over one of your competitors or accidentally put it in a bunker. The umbrella holder is a little bit unique currently, but Navee have confirmed that they're going to be providing a more traditional one in the next iteration of trolleys. And you're also getting a year's subscription to Hole 19, which is a GPS phone app. So that's a nice bonus as well. And there's a lot to like when using this trolley. The remote control feels nice in hand. It folds up pretty small, not the smallest, but it folds up pretty small with a simple one button kind of design, and then it all collapses in on itself. It looks nice, it feels decent enough quality. You can charge the battery either on or off of the trolley, which is always a nice way of doing it. And the fifth wheel is removable at the back, so you can use it or don't use it. Personally, I always prefer to have it on there for that extra bit of stability, especially for a remote control trolley. And it has downhill control too, so when you send it on its way and it goes down a hill, the trolley isn't going to run away from you. You're going to be absolutely fine. And the trolley doesn't feel particularly flimsy. Well, there's a couple of places where maybe it does, but in general, the trolley feels like a decent construction. Out of the box, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with it. But once I got it out on the course and started to use it for a few rounds, I've definitely noticed that it has some quirks and some features, so shall we say, that I think golfers are going to want to be aware of. And I think some are going to be willing to accept, and maybe some won't. As you can see, I'm just heading into the trees, steering it nicely through the trees, and getting my ball on the wrong fairway. Now, the first thing I'd say is do not keep the remote in your pocket, because it's very easy to, rummage around and accidentally knock it, and then you don't even realise that the trolley is off on its own little adventure. Now, that's the same for all remote electric trolleys, except for the fact for this one, you don't have a lock button, and I don't think you can really turn it off from the remote. If I hold down this button right here, the remote doesn't seem to want to disconnect. The very first time I used the Birdie 3, on the very first hole, I was putting out and I actually managed to open with a par, and I was playing in a competition and I'd never met the other people before, and I turned around and I had no idea where my trolley was. It was gone. They were all laughing and joking, and we looked, and it was 50 yards away in the middle of the adjacent driving range. That was really embarrassing for me, and it could have ended a lot worse. So I've had to get into the habit with the remote of either using the belt clip, which I really don't like doing, and it's not the tightest belt clip in the world, or actually leaving the remote on the trolley or putting it in the little bag when I'm not using the trolley. But the thing is, that means then that you can't actually control the trolley when you're on the green and you want to send it to the next tee box or something like that, because I'm so scared that I'm accidentally going to send the trolley on its way. But I think there's actually a bigger thing that I want to let you guys know about. And again, I noticed it when I was playing in that competition with people that I didn't really know. And that's that when you start and stop the trolley using the remote control, it actually makes a bleep. Did you hear that? And we'll do it again. There's the bleep. It's not the loudest bleep, but it's not quiet. I was definitely conscious of it when I was kind of lining up to my ball, my other players were around me or things like that, especially players that I didn't know. A bleep like that is not what you expect to hear on the golf course. And I didn't really want to risk putting my competitors off. So I did ask Navee whether or not you can actually turn that bleep off in the firmware, and you can't. That is permanently hardwired into the trolley. Navee have confirmed to me that the next iteration of this trolley, they will stop that bleeping. So you're just gonna have to be a little bit conscious with it when you're out on the course. That was a lovely little approach shot. 160 yards with an 8-iron. Behave. One quick thing I have noticed is that when you're putting your clubs back in, you've got to be careful, because this screen is in prime position to take a battering. So just be conscious of that when you're using it. Now, if you are finding this video helpful, please tap the like and subscribe button. It does so much to support this channel. And let me know down in the comments, what do you think of the trolley? I always try to reply to each and every one. So I ended up bogeying that hole, but this is a great chance to show you the power assist mode, because we're going to go through a little track bit that maybe probably shouldn't use the remote control. You want to have a little bit more control with the trolley. So it's pretty simple to use. All you do is grab the trolley, pull in either one of these buttons. You've got one on each side, but you just push one in, and the trolley doesn't start moving when you push it. You have to give it a little bit of help, and then the trolley is on its way, and you're now using it like a regular electric push trolley. Now, as soon as you take your finger off of that button, it glides to a halt, and then it stops. Now, the actual pushing of it initially takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's perfectly comfortable when you're using it, and it gives you all the control in the world when you're going through these tight spaces or the car park, things like that. It's quirky, it looks different, I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. The buttons do feel a little bit cheap, to be honest. It's one of the only things in this trolley where it does feel a bit cheap, but it works. Now, when you are using the power assist mode, to make the trolley speed up or slow down, you have to push those plus or minus buttons there on the front of the trolley. And it's not quite as convenient as having a dial like on a regular electric trolley, but again, it's not the end of the world. You can see you've also got a Type-C USB port there on the top. That's quite a nice little place to have it, I suppose, in terms of charging your phone, but I do worry how it's going to hold up to the conditions, because it's on the top and not hidden away underneath. It has got a little rubber cover, but it is in the back of my mind. With the next iteration of trolleys off the production line, the USB-C will actually be located underneath the trolley. So Navee are making iterative improvements to this model all the time. Now, with this remote, if you really press on the stop button too hard, you can accidentally access some of the other directional buttons as well. So watch here, I'm pressing the stop, give it a real good squeeze, and it's actually gone and pressed the forward button. Now, you do have to press it really quite firmly to do that, so general normal usage, I haven't really had any problems whatsoever. Now, that's quite a firm press and it was absolutely fine. But if you really squeeze it, then you can access those other buttons. So definitely something to be aware of out on the course. Now, if you don't want to keep the remote in your pocket, which is completely understandable, the trolley could be a little bit better thought through, I suppose, because there's no clip to easily put it on. Now, there is the bag underneath, but after just 3 holes of using it, that bag broke. The bag is attached just via a screw on the washer at the bottom, and that just kind of ripped through the bottom of the bag. And I was only keeping the remote in it, so I wasn't putting heavy stuff in it. So yeah, a clip or a magnet or something, that'd be nice. Now, the more I've used the trolley, the more I've realised it's not quite as refined in some areas as some of its competitors. So for example, when you're folding up the trolley, yes, it folds up relatively small and quite simply, but you can't reverse the wheels, which is something that I like to do when I store my trolley in the boot of my car, so it gives me even more room. Yeah, you can easily take them off, but you can't spin them around. And when you do fold up the trolley, the front wheels fold under themselves, but I found that they kind of rest then, the front of the trolley rests on the floor, and it kind of scratches up the front a little bit. And same with the back as well. You can't really rest the trolley upright unless you want to risk scratching the back of the trolley. So it just kind of has to sit there in its folded down position. Now the screen is nice and clear, and it shows you how much life is left on both the remote as well as the battery, but the main battery only goes down in 25% increments, so you're never fully sure how much you've got left. Now the good thing is you can connect it to the Bluetooth app via your phone, and then it'll actually give you a specific percentage of the battery life. But I'm aware that most people probably aren't connecting their phone to the trolley. Now if you do, then you can actually keep score with the trolley, and you can actually control the trolley as well with your phone in case you forgot your remote, so it is good to have that backup. Now here in the UK, when the weather gets rough, we have to use winter wheels, at least most courses do. At the moment, dedicated winter wheels are not available to buy for the Navee, as you can do with like a motor caddy or a power caddy. You simply just swap them over. Navee have confirmed that dedicated winter wheels will be available for this trolley from around September 2026, and they're going to be the Hedgehog style. Now, none of these things would put me off owning this trolley, but they are the type of things that you do start to notice when you're using the trolley out on the course, and you're going to have to get comfortable accepting that they're the quirks that come with it. Now, I don't want this to sound like I hated my time with the trolley, because I really haven't. Yes, I think there's some important things that golfers should be aware of before committing £800 on a piece of kit, but I think there's a lot that the Navee does right. It's good value for money, it's got an impressive spec sheet, but the question is, who should buy this trolley? Well, ultimately, I think if you're a golfer who wants a remote control trolley and you're comfortable using a remote and you're budget conscious, you want to get as much in terms of specs for your money, then the Birdie 3 is actually a real good proposition, so long as you're comfortable accepting some of those quirks. Now, if you've heard some of the quirks and some of the frustrations I've experienced when testing it and thought, nah, maybe this trolley's not for me, then I think you're probably right. This trolley's not going to be for you. Unfortunately, that means that you're probably going to have to spend a few extra £100 if you still want a remote control trolley. But even if you spend a few £100, you're probably not going to get all of the features that the Navee's packing in. Certainly, you're probably not going to get a 36-hole battery. You're going to have to spend maybe £300-400 more. Now again, if you're the type of golfer that wants it to feel effortless and completely polished and have the very best toy out on the course, that's probably not what the Navee's going to offer you. Now, they might have some trolleys in future which are going to be more in line with what you're looking for, but they're going to be more expensive as well. So there's absolutely a trade-off in terms of specs, ease of use, and value for money. So is the Navee Birdie 3 a good way to save money on a remote control trolley, or are there just too many compromises? Well, honestly, I think it is good value for money. It's just not a polished experience. So for some, there might be too many compromises. For others, well, it's going to be good value for money. Come on. Now, should you get a remote control electric trolley is a completely different question, because there's things that you have to be aware of when using them. They're certainly not going to be for everyone. Now, one of the key positives with a remote control trolley is that when you go a little bit wayward, like I tend to do, and I'm spending my time looking for the ball, when I find it, I can actually just bring my trolley back to me. It is kind of cool when you get to do those kind of things. When a remote control trolley is working at its best, you have this lovely freedom to walk down the fairway upright, nice and comfortable, without a care in the world. You can take in your surroundings, you can chat to your friends. There's really not much else quite like it as a recreational golfer. Now, it's not always like this. You have to pay attention when you come up to bunkers, or if you've got obstacles, or even just around your colleagues. You don't want to crash into them, take them out, take their trolley out. You don't want to do a Tanya Harding on the links. If you found this video helpful, please tap that like and subscribe button. And if you are in the market for a remote control electric trolley, then you might want to check out one of these videos right here, because I've tested quite a few of these now, and I'm starting to pick up a few subtle but important differences. Come on then.